Guys, this is my first time live streaming. Holy shit. Anyway, yeah, I forgot to turn my mic on. Thanks, chat, for blowing up and letting me know. Let's rewind that back and start over. What's going on, everybody? And yeah, it's embarrassing. Whatever. Here's what we're going to talk about today. And that is the job offer that I put out earlier in the week. And sorry, I'm still like looking at the chat to make sure the sound is back on. But earlier in the week, I put out a video about a job offer for an iOS dev to basically find my replacement. And so we're going to talk about how that went. I got tons and tons of responses, give an update around that, and talk about some other updates as well. Now, if this is your first time here, how this typically goes is I talk about something for about 10 to 15 minutes, give some updates, and then we dive into Q&A. So if you have a question related to iOS development, careers, Swift, anything at all really, go ahead and start asking that, because once I get done with my little spiel, I start diving into that Q&A. And as always, if you want to support the channel or if you want your question to jump up to the top, because I do them in order, you are welcome to super chat as well. All right, intro done. Let me scroll back up through the chat, through the hundreds of no sound, no sound, no sound. I'm an idiot. So what's going on, Jason? Good to see everybody. Paul's in the house, says hello from Swift over Coffee Towers. Hope you're editing this week's podcast in those towers right now. You know, I don't know if it's ready yet, but that comes out tomorrow. Check out Swift over Coffee. Awesome podcast Paul and I do together. MGPPS says he published his first app yesterday. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Sorry, I'm just going to go through this quick because that no sound thing kind of got me all messed up. Mark Moikin's in the house. How's it going, Mark? Good to see you. Jarek Warren, good to see you, Jarek. I'll be talking to you soon. I don't think I have your resume yet. I think you were supposed to send that to me, so shoot that in. All right, then now I'm down to the no sound stuff. So, make sure anything else. Yep, okay, cool. Let's talk about this job offer and the updates around that. So, basically, on the first day, I got over 100 responses. I stopped counting after 100, but we're between 100 and 150. So I would guess like, I don't know, 120, 130 somewhere. So a ton of responses. So thank you, everybody who submitted. That's awesome. Now, a couple things I want to address that, and I will get back to everybody individually, but I am going to kind of put out some blanket statements to let everybody know what's going on. A lot of people asked about the remote aspect of it. And I said in the video, this is no remote, this is an on-site, job. And the reason being is because this person will own the entire iOS product, right? And I am looking to hire somebody junior or it's their first job. So being in person is super important. Again, working with me for those 2 months, turning over the code base and getting you up to speed is incredibly vital. And then again, after that, again, you own the product. So that is why we aren't doing remote. It is a kind of a mission critical position for the company because this is not a large iOS team that you're just a cog in the wheel, right? The whole company's 4 to 5 people. So that is why we want everybody in-house because we're trying to launch this product. And I do know remote work, is very popular, but when you're trying to launch a product in a small, tight-knit team, we believe that being in-house is very important. So if you did apply and you asked to work remotely, that is why we're not doing remote. And then the other thing I want to touch on real quick is the visa sponsorship. Again, we're not doing that because, like I mentioned earlier, we are just a small team of 4 to 5 people. It's not like we have an HR department that can handle all the sponsorships and do all that stuff. So we just don't have the resources and bandwidth to kind of work with those sponsorships. So if you asked about a sponsorship or you're going to need a visa, unfortunately, we won't be able to do that either. But again, I did get a ton of great candidates, and in order to have a handful that I think would be a really, really good fit. And this is a gift and a curse because the reason I wanted to do this was to help somebody out and, kickstart somebody's career because like I say in the video, somebody took a chance on me when I wasn't fully qualified and it worked wonders. It was awesome. So I can't wait to do that for somebody. The downside is that, again, I have a handful of people that I think would be great for it. And I'm only gonna be able to give it to one person. And as cool as that's gonna feel, it's going to suck not giving it to those other handful of people that I think would be a good fit as well. So it's going to be bittersweet. But that is kind of where I'm at. I'm going through, again, the well over 100 responses. So I have to look at projects, resumes, all this stuff. So it is going to take me a few days to get through that. One thing I want to talk about, though, And I'm going to be doing a video on this. So if you have questions about this, feel free to ask, but there will be a full-fledged video. And that is developers need a ton of help marketing themselves. Let's say a lot of submissions I got were pretty rough. This is just my opinion. Again, I'm not an HR department. So if you're applying to a small startup, most likely it's just like one person reviewing this stuff. So take it from that point of view. But you need to make it as easy as possible for the reviewer to learn about you. So many times I would get a resume that's just a giant wall of text, and then they would send me their GitHub, and the readmes would have no pictures. I would know nothing about the app. So in order for me to find out about this app and this person, I would have to read through the walls of text in a resume, go into a GitHub project, like look at code, or download the project and run the app in Xcode and try and play around with that. So as you can see, when you're dealing with a ton of submissions, there's just not enough time to do all that. So my number one piece of advice out there would be to create something visual. I would say almost nobody had a personal website. There were a couple. That is just so huge. So again, make it easy for the reviewer. Create something visual that they can look at right away, because again, your resume is just going to get skimmed. Anything else you submit is just going to get skimmed. So the more visually pleasing you can make it, the better. And now, by no means am I saying that having pretty pictures makes you a good developer. Like, don't get it twisted. What I'm saying is you only have a little bit to make that good first impression to make the reviewer want to dive deeper into your job submission, right? So having those pretty pictures and presenting well and marketing yourself well, that is going to get you to that deeper look. Whereas if you don't present yourself well, you make it very hard for the reviewer to like find out anything about you. You might not make it past that initial first look. So again, I would highly, highly recommend having a personal website. Even if it's super simple, just throw a couple screenshots of the apps you've worked on. Just make it visual and easy for people to learn about you. That's the key. So many times people would say, yeah, I'm interested. And then I would have to like prod them like, hey, send me your GitHub, send me your resume. And it's just, you're making it hard for me. And again, I'm not saying I'm so special, but remember the people reviewing these are reviewing hundreds of submissions and they just don't have time to take. So my long rant is over. Make it easy for the reviewer. Have something easily skimmable and visually pleasing, and that'll help you out a ton. All right. Rant over about the job stuff. But anyway, I'm hoping to find the person in February, sometime this month, and kind of get them started. Not that they'll be working, for Luna at that point, but I want to kind of take them under my wing and start helping them learn and getting them up to speed and kind of just helping them along the way. So when they start around April, like I said, that start date, they will kind of be just hit the ground running. There will be no like onboarding time wasted. So that's that for the interview. Let's see what else I got next. Next update. Is I got the new iPad Pro in January. You may have seen that. A lot of people have been asking me how I've been working it into my developer, workflow. And I haven't. It's been great for YouTube in order to be able to, outline videos, answer comments, respond to DMs, that kind of stuff, because it's so portable and I can do that from anywhere. So I've definitely worked it into my YouTube workflow. So I'm not, getting no use out of it. But as far as development is concerned, I haven't. So if you are a developer thinking, how can I use the iPad Pro, for my developer workflow, I don't have much for you. I can't. I know John Sandell's, using it a lot, but I think he's using that for his content creation more so than development, aside from his game engine that you saw. So anyway, just wanted to give that quick update on the iPad Pro. Two more things before we dive into the Q&A. I have a crazy, crazy busy first quarter, and I just kind of want to share the big picture so you guys kind of understand like all the stuff I have going on. So if, maybe videos slow down or something slows down, what's up. So basically, top priority is I need to redo my website. Speaking of, visuals, let me pull it up real quick here. This can kind of build on, give me a second. Yeah, this can kind of build on what I was talking about. So my website is nothing special, super quick, static website. It says what I'm working on now. My portfolio, I finally added a Luna to it. Shows some nice screenshots, and you can dive in for more screens, that kind of thing. So it's just an example of like what would be really good, for somebody to check you out. But anyway, you'll notice my website is geared towards like, hey, hire me, here I am. I need to gear my website more towards my business. So basically, this next week, I'm going to be completely revamping my website. I've already designed it. Now I just got to build it using my real shitty HTML and CSS, bare bones JavaScript skills. But I do want to build it myself just because that's how I am. So that's going to be interesting. So be on the lookout for that over the next couple weeks. A brand new website, again, geared more towards me as a business, more so than me as just hire me as a developer. So that's a thing. And I have to build my talk for iOS Con in London, which I'm speaking at. If you're aware, I do 30 Xcode tips in 45 minutes is the talk I'm giving. So my plan is during February, I have to build that talk, create it, find the tips, find the best 30 tips I can find. That I know Paul's in the house. He's been doing the 33 tips over January, to try not to overlap too much with that. So got to kind of create the talk, build it in Keynote, and come up with all the examples to show people, because when I give this talk, I'm going to be showing all this keyboard tricks like live in person. So, my first talk is kind of like a live demo, which is, I don't know, I'm an idiot, but that's what we did. It's going to might be rough, but so anyway, build that in February and then practice it all of March and then deliver it at the end of March when I go to London. So that's coming up. And then right after that talk, I am launching my first course. If you've heard me talk about this course, I'm doing a course that's really focused on the take-home project for job interviews. But I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because one of the questions I always get is, how do I know when I'm ready to start interviewing? So that's what this course could be, is, hey, take this course. If you understand building this take-home project, that is an example of what you're going to get as a take-home project. Maybe you're good to go to start applying. Or if you are applying, you are ready, and you just want a practice take-home project. Like, that's kind of what the course will be. So that will be coming out. I don't want to put out a release date, but probably in the April-May timeframe after the talk. And so crazy busy first quarter. And then also around that time, I'll be starting the job hunt at a new, larger company. Because again, this person that is going to start at Aluna in April, and then I'm going to be moving on around May and June. So the first half of the year is crazy busy for me. So I just wanted to put that out there in case, you were wondering how busy I am. I don't know, that's weird. All right, let's catch up on some chat and get some Q&A going here. Okay, again, all the scrolling back up to the no sound stuff. Anil says, do you have any plan for creating a tutorial or video to refactor a big storyboard for big app? I kind of did that already with my refactoring storyboards, just basically showing you how to create storyboard references and move them to their own storyboard file. Just the bigger the app, the I guess you'd have to extrapolate on that. So Anil, if you haven't seen that video, go check that out. It's called Refactoring Storyboard, as Armand here is saying. Video is already out. So yeah, you'll just have to kind of expand on that. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you. Brandon Bravos, good to see you. Be talking to you soon as well. Jarek says his resume is on the way. Andrea Lupo says, you said you did not use Alamo Fire. I don't believe I said that. I use Alamo Fire and everything. Can you do a tutorial about your wrapper over URL sessions? So I think what you're talking about is I've been thinking about writing my own wrapper, just because I use Alamo Fire and everything. And it's probably a lot of bloat that I'm bringing in, right? Alamo Fire is amazing. It can do so much. And I probably don't use or need 85% of it, right? A lot of the networking calls I do are just simple gets and posts, like nothing crazy. So I was talking about how I don't probably need to bring in Alamo Fire. I can write my own simple wrapper. I haven't done that yet. Again, I just told you how crazy busy I am, and with work, I'm building the entire app. So that is something I will do down the line, but yeah, not quite yet. Brandon Bravo says, what third-party CocoaPod libraries are used, if any, in the app being created by your company for the job position? Are these libraries common in your development career? So yeah, I just kind of mentioned Alamo Fire. Let's see what else we got. I'm using Charts, the iOS charting. It used to be called iOS Charts, but I think they shortened it to just Charts for the charting package. There's some other ones, but they're small. Like one's Drift for like our customer support thing. The only ones that are like common that people may have used are Alamo Fire and Charts. And then, like I said, once the app launches and now we're kind of in like, okay, let's, make, not to say that the code's not reusable already, but, we're really pushing towards launch. So a lot of like code maintenance is kind of being put on the back burner. Again, I don't want to make it sound like the code base is shitty. It's not. But there's a lot of stuff like writing our own network wrapper instead of using Alamo Fire. Little stuff like that we want to improve on. will wait, till after launch. Oh yeah, I am using Lottie for animations. Thanks for pointing that out, Josh. Josh knows the app better than I do. Very says, Sean, can you tell me how to start iOS development from scratch? Just that's a whole 10-minute video in and of itself. Start looking at websites like my YouTube channel, Paul's Hacking with Swift. Paul just did a 100 days of Swift thing that he just launched the other day. So Google, or just go to hackingwithswift.com/100. That'll be a good path to start for 100 days. So there you go. Keldor says, Sean, please talk about junior versus senior dev. Everybody always asks this, like, when am I middle? When am I senior? I don't believe there's a line in the sand. I believe it's a very murky, blurry thing that if you ask one person, you're going to get a completely different answer than if you ask another. One thing I always say is I don't think it's based on time alone. Like, just because you've been a developer for 5 years makes you senior. Like, no, it's a combination of many, many things. And again, I think everybody's looking for this perfectly defined line, and I don't think that exists. And like I said, you're going to get different answers from different people. All right, we got a super chat. Let me scroll that from Caleb Griffin. Caleb says, been reading your book, No Secondary Education and Can't Attend a Boot Camp. Is it realistic to self-teach and get a job as an app developer? I think so. Of course, if you have a CS degree or if you've done a boot camp, of course, those are going to help you, right? I'm not going to act like it's the same ease, going from no education to having a computer science degree. Of course, those are going to benefit you. However, is it possible? Absolutely. From what I've seen, and this is maybe at smaller startups, maybe larger companies are different when they have a more outlined hiring process. But from what I've seen at smaller startups, and I'm talking anywhere from 5 people to like 30 people, which encompasses a lot of companies, they just care about what you've done and what you can do. So again, just in my experience. So if I were you, what I would do is I would just, again, there's so many resources online. My YouTube channel, Hacking with Swift, Paul's, RayWenderlich.com. There's 1,000 of them. Links are all in the description, by the way. Those are affiliate links. So if you do check out anything there, appreciate that. There's just so much out there. And really, at the end of the day, it's not, oh, you went to this school, cool, you're good. It's what have you done? Show me your portfolio. Talk about code with me. Show me that you understand the code. Show me that you can solve these coding problems, and you're good to go. Again, at smaller startups, I think that might be different at larger companies. Again, this is just my hunch, just because their hiring process is more official, if that makes sense. Whereas smaller startups, again, like my startup, it's me making the decision for the most part. I'm not going to really care where you went to school, to be honest with you. I care about what you can do, what you've done, and how you present yourself, kind of thing. So thanks for the super chat, Caleb. I really, really appreciate that. Hope that answer helped out. Yes, I absolutely think you can. It is going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle, but start building that portfolio. Start proving what you can do. Sorry, I got to get back up to my chat here. Okay, Mikhailio says, hello, Sean. What do you think about the Brave browser? I have a lot of BAT, the token, but I've actually stopped using the Brave browser because, I don't know, sometimes these browsers, they really lock you in when you got all your favorites and everything's all set up the way you want. I do like the idea. I can't wait till they roll out when they actually pay you to start watching ads. That'll be cool. But I don't want to digress too much down the crypto rabbit hole. Please guide me on winning a scholarship for WWDC 2021. And yeah, I'm a newbie. I have no idea what that takes to win a scholarship. I have never done that. So Santos.Swift says, hey, Sean, what are your thoughts on singletons? Loving the content. My thoughts on singletons are to use them sparingly. I think you have two camps. You have camps that use singletons all the time, and then you have a camp that says singletons are the devil, never touch them. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think some singletons are okay if it makes sense. An example of a singleton that I use in my projects is like the user object, or I'm sorry, the session manager, which is managing like the user object, like the current user, whatever tokens they may have, or anything that involves, that user, because typically the user is going to be used throughout the entire app. So I usually have a singleton for that, but not much else after that, to be honest with you. So, again, I don't think they're the devil. I don't think you should never use them, but also overusing them is bad because you think about it, it's basically like a global variable. And global variables are bad because, or not bad, but they're dangerous, we'll call them, because you can be changing them and adjusting them from anywhere in the code base, and that can be confusing and hard to reason about. I got another super chat from Paul Hudson. No comment. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. I think in the podcast I said I owe you a beer, so I think you just paid for your own beer. That's right. I'll get you a nice cold Bud Light, because I'm sure that's the kind of beer you like, Paul. Nice little light beer, right? Anyway, just kidding. All right, back up here. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that greatly. Yeah. All right. One Strap Photo says, I started reading this book called Algorithms to Live By, Computer Science of Human Decisions. And in terms of picking a candidate, they mentioned the 37% rule. It might help you choose a candidate. I have no idea what you're talking about, the 37% rule. If you could elaborate on that too. Josh says, Sean has a handsome resume, very inspiring. Let's actually show that off, since people might be wondering what you're talking about, Josh. Appreciate the comment though, or compliment, by the way. I need to update this. Again, look at that baby beard. I need a better beard picture. But yeah, so back to, let's go ahead and make this like smaller so people can see the whole thing. Back to what I'm talking about making it like visually appealing, so you can just skim it real quick. You just really get an idea of who I am. I got the timeline real quick on the bottom, kind of giving you like where I'm at, some key skills. One of my pet peeves is people that just list skills. Not a pet peeve, but it just doesn't tell you anything when they're like skills and it just says Swift, Objective-C, Java. You know what I mean? It's like, tell people what you've done using those skills. Like just a list of frameworks and skills, it tells the person nothing. But again, I do want to update this, but yeah, just make it like easily skimmable and easy to get a picture of who you are, just real quick. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Josh, and kind of reminding me to show that off. Again, I'll be doing a video all about that where I show a lot of visual examples for what I was talking about. That'll be coming hopefully later this week here. Josh, I think he disagrees with you. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Paul, but I don't think I'm handsome. Come on now. Matthew Sunderland says, hey bro, I'll be having a job interview this Thursday. Been a developer for 1 year. What should suggest I should study before the interview? Matthew, this is hard to say without knowing you and your skill set. Let me give it from my example. So I'm confident in like my iOS stuff. If you've seen like my iOS interview series talking about optionals, talking about ARC, automatic reference counting, all that stuff that deals with iOS, like I'm confident in. The stuff that I'm not confident in, and this is because I didn't come from a CS background, is all the data structures and algorithms, the typical whiteboarding questions. So when I'm preparing for an interview, that's what I focus on like 90% of my studying, just because the stupid thing is, well, I don't know, I don't want to bash on this too much, but it's like, in your day-to-day work, you don't really deal with those whiteboarding type problems. So it's like, it's a skill you have to learn specifically for the interview process. So that's why I study that hard, because the iOS stuff I deal with on a daily basis, and I'm confident in that stuff. So I guess I would have to pose the question to you, which do you feel the least confident in? That whiteboarding aspect or the iOS aspect? If you need help with the iOS aspect, again, I have that iOS or Swift interview series on my channel. Check that out. It's a whole playlist. Those are the most common iOS questions you're going to get asked. Again, it's stuff like optionals, communication patterns like delegates and protocols, again, automatic reference counting, concurrency and threading, all that kind of stuff. So check that out. And if you need help with the whiteboarding stuff, I always recommend cracking the coding interview. But yeah, there you go. Reed Plunkett says, hey, Sean, it's been a while. Good to see you again, Reed. Paul Hudson says, I'm looking forward to a sneak peek of your iOS Con talk. You'll see it in March, Paul. No, just kidding. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be asking for some help all along the way there as my first talk. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, with how much of it's going to be slides versus how much of it's just going to be me just plowing through Xcode. We'll see. Caleb asking his question that he super chatted. Got that. Looks like Sundish is talking to Paul about Paul's live stream. Yeah, Paul's doing a live stream every Sunday. He shifted the time to accommodate my live stream a little bit, but also to accommodate other time zones as well. So Paul's doing a Swift Sunday live stream every Sunday where he basically builds an app. It's about an hour and a half. You get to see Paul code in real time. It's pretty cool. So definitely check that out. Fruit Punch says, what is the dream company you want to work for? Well, sadly, it would be Apple, but I'll never work for Apple. Just because I've said this 1,000 times. I would love to work for Apple, but when you work for Apple, this YouTube channel will get shut down. My podcast would get shut down. And I think this can grow into something pretty substantial, again, in the 3 to 5 year timeline. So it's basically a huge opportunity cost for me to work at Apple and shut all this down for, say I worked there for 2 years and then try to start it back up again. As much as I would love to work at Apple, I don't think it's worth stopping all of this and the momentum I have, growing the business around this channel. So that would be the dream company. There's a ton of companies that I love. Definitely I'm a big fan of Lyft. I think the iOS team at Lyft is crazy talented, so I'd love to work there. Coinbase is one of them. I don't know. There's a small handful, but when I go for this big job in the middle of the year, or a big company that I'm saying, really my only requirements are have a decently sized engineering team, be a household name that everybody has heard of, and have millions of users. Because I've spent my whole career working for smaller startups or contracting where you're building the app from literally file new to the version 1.0 launch, building the entire app basically yourself. I just don't have the experience in working for an app that has millions of users on a large team. That's just a completely different world. And I feel like I need that experience. I just haven't had it yet. To be honest with you, I think I prefer to work for the smaller startups. I love this type of work. But again, I feel like it's a huge part of development that I don't have any experience in, and I got to get that experience. Morning Glory 95 says, will your talk be made available online somewhere? Yes, iOS Con is recording the talks, so you will be able to see that. Piyush Gupta says, hey Sean, can you suggest me some resources for learning design patterns? I don't know if Paul's still here, but Hacking with Swift, I believe he has a book on that with design patterns. If not, I think Ray Wenderlich does as well. Yeah, check that out. Ollie said, I've never really taken a crazy deep dive into design patterns. I just use MVC and it's been working for me. Ollie says, how's SpriteKit? I really enjoy SpriteKit actually. Again, the app we're making out of Luna, it's not a full-blown game. So it's we're just kind of dabbling in SpriteKit. So I wouldn't say I'm using SpriteKit to its fullest capabilities. Really just using the basics of it, to be honest. But even that, it's super fun. I don't know if it's fun using SpriteKit or just fun building a game, but I guess they go hand in hand. Paul talking to Sandesh says, great. If you'd like to talk about it, hit me up on Slack or Twitter. Sean's live stream is all about Sean and his beard. Thanks, Paul, for keeping the conversation focused. As you know, I'm just basically scrolling through the chat. So if I have to discern who's talking to me versus who's talking to other people, that kind of makes it rough to keep going on. Big Booty Goobly. Thanks for making me say that on a live stream on the internet. Appreciate that. Hey, Sean, I'm new here. Do you have any tips on creating strong UX? So my tips for creating strong UX are really to just, I don't know how much design background you have or knowledge around design, but the way I do it is I read so many design blogs. I check out Dribble all the time. Muzzly on Medium, Muzli, puts out a lot of good articles. Flawless puts out a lot of good articles. I follow some people on Medium. Where I'm going with all this is I just immerse myself in all things UX. Read the human interface guidelines from Apple. That'll teach you a lot. And over time, you're just going to have this feel for what good user experience is. Also, useronboard.com is a good site where he goes through all the onboarding flows of some major apps, and he points out where the user experience is great, where it's not great. Again, there's no for me anyway, there's no one-stop shop. It's really just a ton of different resources that I just kind of soak up over time, and that gives me a feel for what good UX is. Scrolling through. Fahad says, hi Sean, do I have to send you my resume or the App Store link and screenshots of my app that I sent is enough? I dealt with 100 plus submissions. I can't remember which one you're talking about. Email me and ask. But yeah, the more visual, the better, especially an App Store link, because obviously you have screenshots up there. I can see kind of how well you marketed the app, how well your App Store description is. Do you have an app preview? Did you take time to make the video? And how does that video look? Yeah, so App Store links are great, and I can actually download the app and play with it. Robert Ramirez says, will your interview include a take-home project and Swift test? I don't know, kind of winging this project or this hiring here. Depends. So right now I'm at the point where I'm literally just making a list of candidates that I think that might be a good fit, and then from there doing the introductory call, and then kind of going from there. There will be some aspect of a take-home project. I haven't quite figured out exactly what that is yet, and the reason I want to do a take-home project is because I want to have the conversation about the code, right? It's not so much, hey, can you do this take-home project and complete it to my satisfactory? It's you do that take-home project, and then when we sit down the next time, we're just going to talk about your code and why you chose to do things a certain way, and then we'll dig into like certain things like memory management, if you have any memory leaks, that kind of thing, based on the code. So yeah, there'll probably be a take-home project. Swift test will just having a conversation with me. And again, I want to stress that we're not like looking for somebody that's crazy experienced. That's another thing I forgot to say in the beginning is I got, a handful of people that are like, yep, I have 6 years experience. I'm super qualified for this. I would like to interview. And I'm like, I agree with you. You are qualified for this. Not knocking you on that. But the whole point of me doing this was to help somebody kickstart their career, kind of like how somebody took a chance on me. Like that was the whole idea. If I wanted to hire a qualified, already existing developer, like I live next to 1,000 of them, right? Like I'm in the center of it all in Silicon Valley. Like I can find those no problem. But I wanted to find somebody to help kickstart their career. So if you did reach out to me and you have 5-6 years of experience, know that that's probably not what we're looking for. One Strap Photo says, when you said you didn't feel qualified and someone believed in you and hired you along the lines, why did you not feel qualified? Imposter syndrome or truly didn't feel qualified? Just truly not qualified. All I did was a boot camp. I did some self-studying beforehand, but I just did an 8-week boot camp, and then a month out of that got hired. Like I had been coding for like less than a year, and I got hired as like it was a smaller startup. So I was, pretty impactful on the app. Like I was like the main, I basically owned the consumer side of the app, the client side. And that was all me. So for that, I didn't feel qualified. Now, had I been going into a team of 12 developers and I was just the junior guy on the team, I probably wouldn't have felt as like unqualified, right? Because I'm like, okay, this is a large team, I can learn. But the situation I went into was like, hey, we need you. Like you're gonna have to perform, kind of thing. Okay, my chat's jumping around. All right, well, let's take this opportunity real quick. One thing I did launch at the end of January that I want to show here is the new items in the store. A little bit of promotion time, a little commercial break, if you will. But if you go to seanallen.co/store, which you see right under me, I've added some stuff here. You can see I have my book. I do one-on-one coaching. Currently, that is sold out because I do only take on 1 or 2 students at a time. And just for my bandwidth, but a lot of people loving that. You can get the Swift News hoodie, but this is what I just launched recently, the whole build line. You can see the t-shirt that I'm wearing when I get rid of this screen. Hoodies, long sleeve t-shirts, and they come in all sorts of different colors. I ordered my hoodie the other day, pretty pumped for that to get in. And then we have the Build laptop sticker and this Swift News laptop sticker. So if you want to support the channel, check those out. If you just want some cool stickers. And then down here we have affiliate links, that help out my recommendations. Again, Hacking with Swift, Paul puts out amazing stuff. I got my start with Ray Wenderlich with their books and their videos. You can check those out as well if you're interested in ways to learn. And then, Advanced Swift, Cracking the Coding Interview, etc. So yeah, I just finished putting that out. So that was my small commercial break. So check out seanallen.co/store if you're interested in any of that and just want to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And it's a pretty sweet shirt, Again, all different colors. You don't have to get red. Okay, back to the Q&A. Reed says, any quick advice for cheap/free ways to market your iOS game? So yeah, the personal website, again, it can be basic. Squarespace basically builds a website for you for relatively cheap. I do mine on GitHub Pages because I wanted to build the HTML and CSS myself. That may not be cheap just because you have to spend the time to learn HTML and CSS on your own if you don't already know that. But if you don't know that, I would recommend something like Squarespace. Just get something visual up there. Yeah, and something they can find out about you quickly. Sorry, just going through. Hoi Fi Hong says, how do you think about Ray Wenderlich website? Well, as I just showed, that's how I got my start when I first started out. So I think very, very highly of it. I use their video tutorial subscription, which is, I believe, like $20 a month, but well worth it. That's basically what I lived on, like when I was just starting out. They have so many topics. That's what I went through. Eric Zorn says, hey Sean, first off, I love the content. Second, I am currently junior front-end web dev and really fascinated by iOS. Would you think the transition between the two is easy? So I don't know a terrible amount about front-end web dev. I don't know how much JavaScript you know. I know HTML and CSS doesn't really translate, but you know, some of the functionality, or some of the features of JavaScript, you know, will transfer over. But again, I don't want to act like I even know anything about front-end web dev. But I would say once you learn one coding language, learning the next one is easier than if you were starting from zero. But I would also say what I really like what you said is you're really fascinated by iOS. I think the key to learning code or programming is whatever you're fascinated by or super interested in, because you're going to run into a lot of problems and roadblocks. So if you truly love the platform, you're truly interested, you really like what you're doing there, I think that's going to carry you a long way. So if you are truly fascinated and intrigued by iOS and want to learn that, I think that'd be a great idea. Caleb Griffith says, thanks, thank you. Caleb, another Caleb, a Swifty Tilting Planet, says, you know, he's 100% self-taught and got a contract at a small startup as an iOS developer. Yeah, so it's certainly possible. That's for sure. Tyler Perkins says, yo, Sean, have you been looking at Flutter at all? They just launched 1.0 and it looks super interesting. I just want to hear your thoughts. So my thoughts on Flutter are I'm glad it exists. I do think we need a platform like that because at the end of the day, I'm in the native camp just because I prefer doing that. But I don't bash the, whatever you want to call it, non-native, cross-platform, whatever term you want to put on it. I do think that needs to exist because there is absolutely a business case where that makes sense. And there's business cases where going native makes sense. So I do like that it exists, and I hope it does well because I do want a good option there. However, to answer your question, I haven't been playing with it. I do know they just launched their 1.0. I just haven't had a chance to play with it. I don't bash it. I hope it does well. Tyler Perkins says, by the way, I'm starting my first dev job tomorrow. It's finally happening. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, I've been talking, Tyler and I did I think we did like a coaching session or we did some sort of a call way back, like probably well over a year now. And I know he was working towards finding that job. So awesome to hear you finally got that job. Like you said, it's finally happening. So congrats there. Paul gave Sean money for Starbucks, yeah. Paul Hudson says, what came first, basketball or submarines? I mean, of all sports in the world, basketball seems like a really bad choice for a submarine. Don't get your hopes up. $5 is only $6.50. Yeah. No, for me, I played basketball my entire life since I was like a kid. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Anyway, yeah, Josh is recommending Paul's tutorials. I absolutely recommend that as well. Okay, looks like people are talking to each other. JD says, been getting ready to launch my website and publish my app to get ready for the application process. Then I realized I hate all of it. Seems to be a common trend with me when I finish something. Is this a me thing? You mean like once you get your website up and running, you just don't like the way it looks? Yeah, that happens to me sometimes, but that's why I always iterate tons and tons like on paper. And then after I am done getting the general layout on paper, then I'll jump into Sketch and design like a pixel perfect version in Sketch and play with that for a while of like a website. And then once I get that pixel perfect version in Sketch, I kind of sit on it for a couple days. Because oftentimes when you create something, you're like, wow, this looks awesome. And then you look at it a day later, which you're kind of seeing, you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. I don't like this. So when I think I have a good design, I sit on it for a little bit, make sure I still like it. And then once I have that pixel perfect design in Sketch, and this can be for like an app screen or a website, portfolio, whatever, that's when I decide to actually start coding it up and building it. So I'm not sure what kind of process you were doing, JD, but that was mine. Again, paper sketches into actual Sketch program or Adobe XD or Photoshop, whichever you prefer, and then build it. So basically building, comes way down the line because as you might be seeing, building it takes a lot of time and resources. So I want to save that till I know for sure that I like it. Chat's jumping around. Go Fight Yourself says, will iOS apps run in the web in the future? I don't know. Hoi Fing Huang says, hey Sean, should we still learn Objective-C nowadays? My take on it is no. If you're a new developer, no. Just because all new apps going forward are going to be built in Swift. Of course, there's some older apps that are around that are in Objective-C, like Facebook, Twitter, apps that have been around since pre-2014 are highly probable to be in Objective-C. So if you go 100% Swift, you may lose out on those opportunities at those Objective-C companies, maybe. But the way I look at it is those are slowly, the Objective-C apps are slowly like dying away over time as these old apps eventually convert to Swift. So I like to go where the world is going, not to where it's been and what's dying off. So again, I don't want to say Objective-C is useless because there are still plenty of major apps that use it, but I think as time marches on, it's going to become less and less useful, and Swift is clearly going to be the winner in the iOS world. Volume up, please. I think you have a volume control on your computer, I believe. Hi, Sean. Can you make a demo app with Firebase backend, storing data and all that stuff? I'll give my usual Firebase spiel. I don't do Firebase tutorials because I've never used it, to be honest with you. Every project I've worked on in the company I work at has a full-time backend developer attached to it. They do all the backend API stuff. I get that not everybody has that luxury, but I'm just saying why I haven't done Firebase videos is because for me to do a Firebase video, I would have to learn it, make a few apps with it, and to be frank, I just don't have the time to be doing that with all the other stuff I'm doing. Mark Moykin says, Sean, would you rather work 100% remote, 100% in the office, or a mix of both? This one's easy, Mark. Thanks for the softball. I would do a mix of both for sure. 100% remote, I did for about 1.5 years contracting, and I'm sure it's just me, and I'm sure I could have fixed this, but I got real bored working by myself and working out of my little studio apartment that you see here. That got really, really old, and I really started yearning for like wanting to go into an office and work with the team and all that stuff. So 100% remote for me is out of the question for a long period of time. Could I do it for like 6 months? Sure. After 6 months, I'd be going crazy. 100% in the office, I do like the work from home days occasionally. It breaks up the week nicely. It allows me to run a bunch of errands, and have a flexible schedule. So definitely a mix of both for sure. That 100% in the office, that going to work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 every day, it just starts to feel like more corporate, which I'm, obviously trying to get away from with the whole startup thing. So yeah, definitely a mix of both. Chat jumping around, sorry. Shubham says, hi Sean, just wanted to say a big thanks for all your videos and stuff and really like your Swift news. The only best thing about Monday. Thank you, appreciate that. Got to film Swift news this afternoon, so for release tomorrow. Anthony Gallo says, hey Sean, have you thought about doing a YouTube segment where you interview senior devs from different companies? Kind of what I'm doing that with my podcast with Origin Stories. So the whole point of Origin Stories, and this is, I guess, thanks for the podcast plug here. Origin Stories is where I interview developers, from around the community to talk about how they got started in iOS development. Because I'm always fascinated with that story of, what got them interested. Was it as a kid? Was it as an adult? And then once they were interested, how did they learn? Did they go the traditional route to get the computer science degree? Or did they do the self-teaching? Did they do the boot camp? What resources did they use? And then ultimately how they got that very first iOS developer job. Because a lot of my audience is people just learning and trying to get that first job. So again, I love these stories and I think a lot of people find those interesting. So that is the whole point of Origin Stories on my podcast, iOS Dev Discussion. So it's kind of interviewing, it doesn't have to be senior iOS devs, but a lot of the people I'm interviewing are senior. But yeah, so it might not be exactly what you're talking about, like seeing what they're doing at that company. Because oftentimes they might not be able to talk about too much of what they're doing on a public podcast. But anyway, well, let me know what you think about the podcast. Because with YouTube, like I know what you think because you get to leave comments, right? With the podcast, there's no comments. So I have no idea if the shows I'm doing, you guys like, if you don't like. So, excuse me. If you are listening to the podcast, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? If you aren't listening to the podcast, why not? Are you sick of my voice? Do you not listen to podcasts at all? Do you have too many other podcasts to listen to? Did you just not know about it? So just curious to hear what you have to say. Sorry. Santos Swift says, Sean, what's a good way to go about adding analytics to an app? I again, I've used Flurry in the past a couple times, and I use them mostly because it's just what I've used and it's worked. I'm sure there may be better options out there, so I may not be the best person to answer this because I haven't tested out 7 different analytics, SDKs and figured out which one's the best. Haven't taken the time to do that. Again, I've used Flurry and it's worked for me, but there may be better ones out there. I hate when my chat jumps. Okay. Islam is Life says, what's a good resource to learn how to use pure code instead of storyboard? Let's Build That App YouTube channel, Brian Vong. He does all his stuff programmatically. So if you haven't seen his channel yet, check that out. PD the Pro says, hi Sean, the last couple of weeks your channel is on fire. Thanks for putting out lots of videos. I'm still kicking with Swift. Good job, PD. Yeah, PD and I did some coaching a few months back. I know he's working hard towards getting that first iOS developer job as well. So best of luck with that, PD. Hope you're still rocking it. And yeah, I think I put out 8 or 9 videos last week. It's crazy. And then I have on the docket like 7 for this week. So yeah, glad you're noticing the hard work that's going in. I'm really trying to like grow this thing and get this thing moving. If you've been here the whole time, I talked about my crazy busy first half of the year. So amongst all that, I'm still knocking out tons of videos. So I don't know. I'm probably going to burn out soon, but we'll see what happens. Mark Moigan says, very nice merchandise, Sean. Thank you very much. I have a ton of ideas for like cool iOS developer t-shirts that aren't like this one is like obviously like, Sean focused, but I have some other t-shirts coming out that aren't Sean focused, right? They're like just iOS developer focused. And I think those will do well and be pretty cool. Fernando says, are there any specific websites you use when searching iOS entry-level jobs? I'm graduating in May and want to apply as many positions as possible. I always recommend AngelList for this. This is how I found my first job. I believe it's angellist.co. If you Google AngelList, you'll find it. But that's where a lot of like smaller startups will be advertising their jobs. And yeah, that's where I found success. BBQ Chicken says, hey Sean, I just got out of the Army at 31 and I'm using my GI Bill to get my degree in software engineering. Any words of encouragement? Love the content. Been following for a while. So I've said this a lot. So first of all, awesome job on the GI Bill. I did that. I always tell anybody that's eligible for that, like you have to take advantage of that. Not only did they pay for my school, they gave you a living allowance. Like it's a great deal. I'm not sure how it's working out for you. Worked out amazing for me. So yeah, and I went back to school at 29. Sounds like you went at 31. So very similar. So very similar paths here. But the words of advice, well, first of all, if you're getting your degree in software engineering, you're already going to have a leg up on what I did because I got my degrees in finance and economics because at that time, coding wasn't even a thought in my mind. Like I never thought I was going to be a programmer. Like get out of here with that, So you're already well ahead of me and getting that degree with that core fundamentals of computer science. It's going to be great. So any words of encouragement? I think you're on the right path. Keep at it. Just reach out to me if you run into any issues, but I think you're taking a very similar path that I did, except by getting your degree in software engineering, you're going to have a way bigger head start than I did. So good job. Keep that up. Ashi says, hey, Sean, I almost completed one online iOS bootcamp from Udemy and searching for some opportunities or projects. Can you please guide me a little bit or teach me? Thanks. I put out over 200 videos. I'm trying to teach. I don't know what else you want me to do. Hey, Brian, what's going on? Let's Build That Apps in the house says support the beard. Appreciate it. It's getting a little long. Might need to be trimmed here in a little bit. Ansab Ali says, can you suggest any good resource for learning iOS in Objective-C? Also, you make awesome iOS Swift videos. Keep making them. Thanks. So appreciate the kind words. I don't know where to go for Objective-C, to be honest with you. I haven't had to look into that. Zu says, I find iOS development is very tired. It hurts my soul and eyes. Sorry to hear that. I disagree. Let's Build That App says, iOS dev is awesome, but there's a ton of other languages we can also dive into. Development is a ton of fun regardless. Agreed. Like Brian just said, there's so many out there. You can find one that you enjoy, right? Like I think many people here enjoy Swift, but that's just our preference. There's tons of other languages out there. You're not locked into this. David Oliver says, I prefer the type system of UIKit and the HIG, ideal development environment with design in mind. Cool. Reed Plunkett says, do you think all of the default iOS apps like Calculator, Notes, etc. were rewritten in Swift, or some of them still running Objective-C? I don't think all of them have been rewritten in Swift. And of course, I don't work at Apple, so I can't tell you, but I do know a lot of the default apps are starting to be rewritten in Swift. I know Apple Music is in Swift. So yeah, I don't know. And I know they rewrote like the Stocks app, all the ones that they showed at WWDC that were kind of like the marzipan dog fooding, they called it. I believe those are rewritten in Swift. But yeah, I think over time they will be. Chris Peregrine says, somewhere recently, well put I might add, someone said, you finally made it when you realize you're a programmer and stop identifying as an X language person. Cool. I think to each their own there. I just made the decision in my career to just really, really niche down into Swift. Don't get me wrong, I dabble in JavaScript, HTML, CSS for the front end stuff. But I am taking the approach, and I agree with you, Chris, by the way. It's not a great idea to just identify with one language. But because I'm building like a business and a brand around that, I think I'm in a little bit of a different scenario where it might be a good idea for me to niche down there. But in general, I agree with you. You're a software developer. Once you learn one language, learning another language is relatively easier than learning that first one. So yeah, definitely learn more than one. Catan says, you don't know Firebase, so I can say there's at least a thing Sean don't know, but I know. I'm sure there's plenty, to be honest with you. Ceylon Watchdog says, do you have any contact number regarding iOS app development? No, not sure there. JD says, by the way, I've started listening to origin stories and iOS dev discussions in general, and it's extra dope. 3 fire emojis, not 4 fire emojis, just 3. Come on. Outside of the episodes already up on YouTube, I can't get enough. Yeah, I do put up the rips from YouTube on some of the talking head videos, just because I know, some people prefer to listen to it rather than sit down and watch a video. So a lot of times if you've already watched the YouTube video, you can just skip those episodes. But yeah. All right, looks like I usually go for about an hour. We're about 8 minutes out, and it looks like we're running out of questions. So if you have any last minute questions, get them in there. We'll go for about 5 to 10 more minutes and then call it a day. Matthew Sunderland says, at what point did you begin calling yourself as senior in iOS development? Thank you for the interview answer. I don't call myself senior in iOS development. I would consider myself, first of all, I don't really put much thought into this, whether I'm junior, mid, senior. I don't think about it at all, to be honest with you. If I had to answer that though, I would say that I'm a mid-level developer, right? I'm more than junior. I wouldn't say I'm senior. And again, that is because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have the experience at a large company with millions of users, with an engineering team, right? My entire career has been building apps from scratch to launch, right? That segment. Again, it is a completely different world at a large app that has millions of users and a huge engineering team. It's a totally different ballgame. And until I get experience in that, I won't consider myself senior. Again, just my thought on it. And like I said about this question about the whole lines in the sand, junior, mid, senior, everybody's looking for those clear definitions. I don't think they exist. You can ask 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers. So, but to my original point, I never think about it. I could care less what I'm considered, to be honest with you. Noah Woodward said, hey, Sean, I definitely think you should do further interview tip series when you get closer to applying to big companies. I got my interview at Lyft next week. Wish me luck. Great job, Noah. Hopefully you get hired and then you can refer me. No, best of luck, Noah. Let me know if I can do anything to help you out. Our Kimura says, Sean, you are amazing. Great Swift videos. How many languages do you know and how many vehicles do you have? I'm assuming you're talking programming languages. I just know Swift and HTML, CSS, and a tiny bit of JavaScript. It's really all I've dabbled in. Again, I focused pretty much my whole career on Swift. And then how many vehicles do I have is none. I live in downtown San Francisco. Put it this way, a parking spot at my apartment is $250 a month just for a parking spot. So yeah, there's no point in owning a vehicle in downtown San Francisco. I walk everywhere or Uber everywhere. Does your beard affect your game when you're playing basketball? It actually does. Like, little fun fact. Because like anybody that's had a beard, like you have to take care of it. You have to put beard oil in it and stuff. So it's like when I put beard oil in it at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day when I go play basketball, sometimes if I like scratch my face or something like that, I get a little bit of oil on the tips of my fingers. Kind of gross, I guess. But when I'm shooting, I can feel it like slip sometimes on my fingers. So it actually does affect my game. Herman K says, hey Sean, good job pumping out these videos. Lately at work, we've been having a debate on what's considered a senior dev and what's considered a junior dev. Love your thoughts on it. Herman, I hope you were just listening 2 seconds ago. I just kind of answered that. And then it was also asked at the beginning of the live stream that I kind of went on a deeper rant as well. So yeah, I guess watch the replay. I feel like I've answered the question 3 times this stream. So sorry, Herman. I won't dive into it again. Herman K says, also been meaning to get back into your videos and start a blog iOS related. What sort of contents do you think it's still needed to have in the iOS community? So this is an interesting topic because I've been thinking about this a lot lately with, okay, what content is nobody else doing? That is definitely one way to look at it and a good thing to do, like provide something that nobody else is providing. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff has been covered. So if you pick this crazy, super niche topic, the audience for that topic is not going to be very big. So you might not grow. I don't know what your goals are. Maybe your goals aren't to grow. Maybe you just want to put out your knowledge. But if your goals are to grow, you may not have, that big, audience. So I would say do whatever you want to do, but put your spin on it. Like you can still cover topics that have already been covered, but put a different spin on it. Put your spin on it. One thing I love is iOS Compressed has been doing, as an example, I featured him on Swift News, is he's doing those 60-second like clips on YouTube. It's just real quick, bam, bam, bam. That is, all those topics have been covered, but he's doing it in a unique way. So that's what I would recommend. Don't worry about doing something that nobody else has done before, because for the most part, almost everything's been done. Santos Swift says, Sean, have you ever been to WWDC? If not, have you ever entered the draw? I've never entered the draw. This year is going to be the first year I do it. And no, I have not been. I've gone to like the stuff surrounding it because I live here. But I have not actually gotten the lucky chance to go. Hazam says, hello, Sean. I have a question. I'm working now to fix a previous app that someone else do. And now really I'm lost in non-clean code. My question, how do you handle working with old code? It sucks. Working with somebody else's code base that, wrote a bunch of spaghetti code is a nightmare. Sorry, Hazam, I have no advice for you. You just gotta suck it up and work your way through it. It sucks. Every developer's been there and it's not fun. Ollie says, where do you think you would be now if you started coding as a teenager? I don't know. That's really hard to say. Definitely, I kind of wish I did, but at the same time, I don't know if I would have the same outlook in things if I didn't have all my other life experiences. Like if I was just coding that whole time and not, have my military experience, not have my insurance agent experience, which was really customer service. That's really where I got really, really good at like customer service and sales, and then after that, my, sales, marketing, growth stuff at a startup. So I think life is just a game of skill acquisition. So I think I'm glad that I acquired all those skills and then became a developer, because I think that just makes me a better, I don't know if I want to say developer, but again, I do like working at smaller startups, and at a smaller startup, you have to wear many, many hats. So it allows me to wear many hats. And then also like building this YouTube business, all the previous skills I learned are helping me build this business. So it's hard to say, like, it's hard to go back and think about that, but I'd be 1,000 times better developer. That's probably for sure. Or actually, maybe by this point, I probably would have stopped developing and been in management and would probably be a shitty developer. I don't know. Who knows? All right, last couple questions here. We're getting to the end. I'll pick like 1 or 2 more. Concerned Cookie Jar says, Sean, do you find yourself working more on business projects, or do you still try to use your creativity to build your own apps? Would you love to just support yourself? Is that a feasible goal? So I would love to make my own apps, and I will. I've said this time and time again. My goal is to go full-time YouTube content creation. I think I'm a few years away from that. And I think once I do go full-time content creation, that's when I'll start making my own apps and also build like an indie developer portfolio of apps that will also be another revenue stream. So in the future, yes, I will do that. As of right now, I am strictly working at my startup on that app, and then building YouTube videos, this YouTube podcast, or the podcast, building the whole business around YouTube is really my side project. So all my time outside of work, goes into that. I'm not building my own separate apps, but that will come later. Emmanuel Posta says, love the way you're developing your channel, Sean. You deserve 4 fire emojis. Thank you. Anybody got 5 fire emojis? Anybody? Philip Carlino says, hey, Sean, is the job remote? JJ, have a good day, bro. Go Patriots. So no, I talked about this earlier. Philip, if you want to watch the replay, I do a deeper dive into this, but I'll give you a quick answer. Just to save you some time. Basically, the job is not remote because it is a pretty vital position in the company. It's a company of only 4 to 5 people, and you're gonna wear like multiple hats. You're gonna own the entire like app experience and app product. So we want that to be in person and not remote because again, it is such a mission critical position for the company. Because again, it's only a 4 to 5 person startup, and we're working towards launch. So it's got to be in-house. And again, there's a longer answer at the beginning. Liam Brown, storyboard or code? Liam, you trolling me, Liam? Actually, Liam, it's funny. Nobody has asked that question this stream. This might have been the first stream that nobody asked the question, and then you had to come in and ruin it right at the buzzer. I think you're trolling me. But the answer is do whatever you want. They're both fine. Do whatever you want. Here's my thing, though. For those that are, I'll give an actual serious answer. You have to learn both, in my opinion. It's perfectly fine to have a preference. You can love doing it programmatically and prefer that way. Cool. You can love storyboard, do it that way. Cool. But you're going to have to know both if you're going out there in the industry, because if you go to a team that does everything on storyboard and you're a diehard programmatic fan, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to do storyboards, or vice versa. So again, perfectly fine to have an opinion, but it's best to know both. Okay, cool. Got some super chats. Clutch the Dev, Build. Thank you. Clutch the Dev, Concern Cookie Jar. Best of luck in your endeavors. Thank you so much for the super chats, everybody. See if there's one last question here. Nope. I think that's it. Talking about the Super Bowl. I forgot the Super Bowl was even going on today. There you go. 5 fire emojis from one strap photo. So, all right, Clutch the Dev. I'll be getting back to you on your application as well. That's coming soon here. So cool. Okay, last one. Spencer Colley, you snuck in, Spencer. Last one we'll answer. When applying to jobs, do you add a cover letter to every application? If so, how long do you spend making a cover letter? So I remember when I was applying for jobs that, sorry, Philip just said the joke went way over my head. I'm trying to figure out what he's talking about. Come on, Philip, cut me some slack, man. Oh, okay. Probably asking that I've covered it. I got a lot going on, Philip. Cut me some slack. Anyway, when applying for jobs, do you add a cover to every application? You're supposed to. That was the most tedious and boring part of applying for all these jobs. Like it's annoying to do that. But you should take the time if they expect it. To be honest with you though, I've said this time and time again, when I'm applying, I don't like to just throw my resume out there to people. I like to talk to people at the company and see if they'll pass on my resume. And that usually gets me an interview, at least the recruiter screening right away. And then I don't really need a cover letter. So, okay, cool. Looks like everybody's talking about the Super Bowl. Excited to watch that. Thank you everybody for showing up. Again, we do these once a month, the first Sunday of every month. So thanks everybody for the support and the super chats. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow with Swift News. We'll say that. All right. Bye, everybody.